And welcome back. And to shed more light on this subject, we're joined over the phone by Sherine Ramadan, the founding member and Assistant Secretary of the General Human Capital at AfroAct organization. Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us. Can you tell us a bit about what does the development of human resources mean?
Right. Well, the development of human resources basically focuses on having more skilled and capable human capital. Actually, I do hear my voice like the echo.
If you've got the TV on, maybe turn off.
It's not on. Anyway, so the main idea for any country or organization is to have a wider number of capable human capital that can contribute to its success. Yes. And it's more and more important for countries, because if you're seeking sustainable development of the country, economic development, you would want the capable individuals that can be able to achieve that.
So why is it important to develop human resources? And I mean, you just explained what it means, but why is it important for developing nations to do that?
Right. Well, especially for developing nation who seeks after, increasing their production, increasing their GDP, increasing their exports, manufacturing, whatever you are seeking to achieve sustainable development or economic development, etc. You will have to have the human element as the main, the main element that will contribute to doing that. And in order to achieve that, you have to, achieve a few sectors in this area, like education, training, working with youth, working with minorities, to try to accommodate them to the globalized and diversified working environment.
Can you tell us what kind of challenges that the young people face today when it comes to the job market?
Right. Well, young people today actually are facing a lot of challenges. You know, we are in a rapid changing working environment.
Yes.
There's rapid changes in education, in knowledge itself, rapid changes in technology, workplace diversity. You know, in globalization, we have to work. The whole world is contributing with one another.
Yes.
So the youth today has to keep up with the pace of the changes happening in knowledge and education and technology. They have to have the skills. They have to be multi-skilled. They have to have the adaptability and flexibility of being able to deal with the changes happening in the world every day. So this is a little bit challenging, and actually it causes a lot of pressures for the youth, or for the workforce, and for the country, in fact, because the country has to keep up as well with the pace, with the fast pace, to provide the education and training and the knowledge required for the youth to be able to keep up.
But I mean, usually the statement would be true that the younger generation are more tech savvy than the older generation. Do you think this is the case here in Egypt, that younger people are more tech savvy, or they understand technology better?
Of course they do, because they are younger generation has more adaptability than we used to have, because they are open on the world. They use the internet. They get to know things more than we used to. We were before the internet. No matter how much education you get in one area, you can be technically very good in this area, but you don't have the window open on all the other sorts of knowledge available. You can have someone who's so good in math or physics, but now younger generation are already exposed to all sorts of technology, let it be from games to even education. They study using technology. They go on the internet. They can make their own research. They are open to more knowledge than we used to be in the past.
The world we live in, not just Egypt, is a very competitive environment of work. I'm sure that it's more competitive than it was a few decades back because of globalization, technology, and so forth. What's the government's role in building these skills, I suppose, of the Egyptian youth to compete with global resources? Because now we see, for instance, call centers that come from India, for instance, and because they have more competitive markets, cheaper, and they're more tech savvy, for instance.
Right. Well, the government's role actually comes in a lot of aspects. First, as I mentioned, the education. I mean, you have to provide education, but not the education has to be as well as the diversified working environment and the environment in general. The education there has to be new approaches to education, new methods. Using technology in education, and education is not only the academic part. You know, you have to adapt. You have to qualify the young youth to be able to face what's coming, to be able to face the working environment in the future. You also have to provide training and you know, whether it's soft skills, vocational training, technical training to youth in universities, etc. Because, as I mentioned, only academic education is not enough. You have to provide the adequate technology. Also, there's a very important aspect. You have to keep in mind getting your youth to become more aware and more educated in all walks of life, not only in the academic part. Because they get to deal with different cultures and diversity, and the whole world, as I mentioned, it's all open. I mean, businesses are being done between countries now, not only locally. So they have to be more open-minded and more able to deal with different working environments.
The president spoke about, job creation and the fact that these mega projects are providing employment for people generally in Egypt, and that unemployment has decreased despite the coronavirus pandemic in Egypt. But these projects are eventually going to end. Do you think that the job market will still be open, and this will still mean that there's more creation of jobs?
Right. Well, the most important, now we're talking about developing human capital, we're talking about qualifying the youth, qualifying the workforce available in the market. But on the other hand, like simultaneously, you have to always work on creating job opportunities and opening more jobs available for the youth to be able to utilize the skills that they have acquired. And as I mentioned, in order to achieve development, economic development, sustainable development, you have to utilize the work. It's like you don't know which is first. I mean, you have to have the adequate workforce, the capable, skilled workforce, and in the same time, you have to have the opportunities to be able to utilize the workforce available.
What about the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development? How do you see the youth figuring out into this agenda? Obviously, the youth in Egypt are the larger part of the population. How does the vision provide opportunities for them, and how will they build their country?
Right. Well, we are working with the Global Agenda 2063, and we have the Agenda 2030, which is the local agenda that is launched in February 2016. And it's basically based on the principle of comprehensive sustainable development and balanced regional development. And as I mentioned, in order to achieve that, it actually reflects on three dimensions. It's economic, social, and environmental. And in order to achieve that, you have to focus on improving the quality of life and improving the standard of living for Egyptian citizens in various aspects of life. Like, for example, when you say you ensure that they have social inclusion and participation in political life. Here you're talking about youth, women, minorities. You have to include, you have to have inclusive participation, like you have to include youth, because if you invest in youth, you actually invest in the future. Yes. And when you're talking sustainable development, you're talking future. You're not talking just development for some time. So basically, there's a big focus on youth and investing in youth because in all areas, not only education and training and having them ready for the working environment to be able to utilize their skills, but also to have them involved in the political life, and to have them have a better standard of living, to invest in the human being in general, building their creativity, promoting increased knowledge and innovation, scientific research in all areas, like having them prepared, having them having a better standard of living, having them involved actually in the whole development of the country overall.
The president spoke about education and the importance of education, and the fact that, knowledge about sciences is not just the main part. I mean, it's not, obviously it's important, but it's not the only thing that education is all about. Like, there's non-scientific studies as well that can build the human capacity, such as, learning about philosophy, morality, and this sort of thing. Do you agree?
Yeah, definitely I agree, because, inclusive education is not only education of human beings. As I mentioned earlier, we are in a different era now, not like the industrialization era where we would have, like, the worker would just have some skills to sit on a machine, and it's very limited. The knowledge you have is very limited, and it grows on you by experience and practice. In today's environment, actually, educating human beings to be more productive members of society, to become more civilized, to become more open-minded on different cultures, different methods of doing things, different methods of businesses all over the world, because we are in the knowledge age, technology and knowledge. So we have to have, you can't have someone who's an expert in math or physics, as I mentioned, and who cannot be able to communicate with others, or who cannot be able to abide by the work ethic, or, you know what I mean? So you have to have a diversified education throughout the life of youth while learning. Not only the academic and the technical and the moral and the ethical.
Okay, and that I would like to thank Sherine Ramadan, the founding member of the Assistant Secretary General Human Capital at Afro Act Organization. Thank you so much for joining us over the phone.